pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Andrew Banowitz.
Here.
Mary Ann Turner here. Kelly Davis.
Here.
Charlie Mastroberti.
Here. Tim
Neville.
Here.
Rich Stroni.
Here.
Rob Kwasnicki.
Here.
Kathy Ploffer.
Here.
You have full complement.
Okay. Before I read the fire evacuation notice, would everybody make sure they have their mics on?
Oops, sorry.
So there's two means of exit from this building. One's behind the audience out onto the town green. The other is to the door to the right of the audience, down the stairs and out into the parking lot. We have a town attorney's report that's before everyone. I don't think there's anything we need to discuss on that. No.
Is there a reason why it came so late? It came in today's email?
What?
The town
town
attorney
attorney's?
report.
I can't say exactly when we received it, but
We got around noon.
if we had it at the time of the packet, we certainly would have sent it at the time of the packet. And
Yeah, the memo
I
is
can check
dated
it for you.
today, so it
Could
seems
you
like
ask
it.
them to, please? I'd rather read the stuff.
Sure,
If we
sure,
can,
absolutely.
Matt.
Sure, yeah, by
I
all
don't
means.
like
Yep.
to just have it in front of me and not be able to read it.
Yep.
So hearing no further comment on the town attorney's report, old business, we don't have any. And would the secretary please read the legal notice?
The Enfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 28, 22, at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at Town Hall, located at 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following. ZBA 2022-10-06, 78 Park Avenue, application for variance of Section 4.30.3B and Section 4.30.3C to allow a new two-family home to be constructed on subject property. Maiden Builders LLC applicant, Lori and David Longy, owners, map 39, lot 4, R33 zone.
Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Richard Case, an attorney from Case & Case in Avon, Connecticut, representing Maiden Builders of Hartford, Connecticut, who has a contract to purchase the lot from the Longys. And I'm here to request for the variances which you announced in the notice. First, let me just tell you that how this all started was an application for a special permit which is required for a two-family house under the R33 zone, was requested of the staff of the planning to the PZ Planning Commission, and it was indicated by staff that, can you hear me, by the way?
You
Yeah,
can sit.
You can sit, yeah.
Oh,
We won't electrocute you, promise.
as you can tell from my gray hair, I've been at this a long time, so. And they indicated at the time of that application that there was an issue, and the issue they indicated was the fact that it appeared that the density requirement under under B was probably not being met, and then a calculation was done by the planning, Mr. Davies submitted to us, which indicated that, in fact, that we needed to obtain a variance of that regulation. I will get into the details of that in a minute. And while we were analyzing the regulations, we also noted that there's C, which requires that two abutting lots with COs be two-family houses. And the word that got us, frankly, was the word abutting, because if you look at the map that I know has been produced and given to you, if you counted the lots, the houses across the street, although they're not abutting across the street, we would have more than two homes which are two-family houses. So that resulted in the second applicant request for a variance under 30, C. Before I get started, and I'm not going to take a lot of your time, there's some couple of things I thought would be of assistance to the commission. And the first is, and I don't know if I have quite enough maps, but This is the original 2006 subdivision.
Yeah, we can share.
We can share.
Put you all out now.
Oh, no, appreciate it, thank you.
The original and I pasted it together. But this subdivision goes back to 1906. And as you'll see, the lot that we're involved with is lot 28.
The match.
And if you look at that map, you'll note that each one of the lots is 51 feet in width. Also, and I know that the planning office provided you with indication as to which were one-family, two-family, and there are even three-family houses on Park. And by the way, Park Avenue is very well-maintained homes. If you drive down the street, you'll see that it's a very good community, very nice community. But anyway, so I thought it would best, because I pulled off the GIS, Enfield GIS, which will help you because this gives you the street numbers.
Thank you.
And so if you, and I see, Ms. Turner, that you have in front of you the one that the planning office provided you, but this gives you the street numbers.
Sorry.
So that if you correlate to the street numbers, the houses that are 1, 2, or 3 family, you will see it. So with that, let me speak first to the density question. If you look at the map, it's very clear that there are 2 parcels of grounds that impact our site, which makes our density calculation not comply. And that is a parcel directly to the south, which it really has frontage on Elm Street, which, according to the wetlands map in town, is probably non-developable as a wetland area behind the 2 homes that are on Elm Street. But that's a very large parcel of land, approximately, I think it's 6 acres or so. I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Also, when you look at the 500-foot radius, which is the required radius to take in the calculation, it takes in the Mount Carmel Monastery. So by the fact of the existence of this lot in the area of those 2 parcels, our density equation is out of, I'll use the word, out of whack. If we didn't have to deal with that, we would clearly make it. But we don't. So as a result of that, we have to ask you for a variance. And that's what the hardship is because of the location of our property in this one lot adjacent to those, within that 500-foot radius. It's also clear that this very, very nice neighborhood has a number of 2-family homes. In fact, there's a 2-family home on one side of the lot, and I think it's 76 Park, and then 80 is a single family. But if you look also in the map that you were given, the check marks that the planning office gave you are all of the 2-family or greater, because there is a 3-family, I think, within that confine, within the confines of the 500-foot radius. The second thing that happens because of the regulation as to abutting, we have to our rear the wetlands, which is not developable. So therefore, we have one whole area which does not have any capacity to be developed into single-family residences or 2-family residences or greater. And on one side, we have a 1-family, and one side we have a 2-family. Also, if the definition didn't have abutting but had area, we could count across the street, which are 2-family homes. So it was our analysis that rather than create an issue in the future, is to simply ask for the second variance, which is of that section. So it's 430.3B and 430.3C that we need variances of. And with me is Mr. Eric Schulich, who is the builder. If you have any questions of me or him, we'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Questions of the commission?
I think you explained it to me.
Pardon?
I think you did explain it to me. I was having trouble with the calculation part. When I read through it, it was not very clear.
Well, the calculation was done by that gave us that 6,000, all right, and it's because of the use of, you taking all of the area, and it's only, I don't want to attack the Enfield regulation, but it's very difficult to read. And frankly, our engineer had a different interpretation, but the
That's what I
interpretation,
was going to ask you. What did your engineer think?
he said we complied. But to be honest with you, I don't think we do, because if you look at Mr. Davies' calculations, he's done the analysis of everything that's in the area, the streets, the roads, the houses, everything. And he does point out in his memo to you that if you took away these two parcels, we would clearly comply.
The
But
two with the wetlands that abut the property from
yes,
behind.
yep.
Right.
And with the Mount Carmel. Unfortunately, the
And that
500
piece.
feet hits Mount Carmel, too.
But wasn't this a multifamily home before it became a lot?
I don't know, and I can maybe ask Mrs. Longy, but what's there now is clearly an old concrete building, which was probably used as a garage. It's in terrible condition. Of course, we're going to destroy it and remove it. But I don't think there were any, I didn't see, I've been on the lot too. I didn't see any remnants of an existing house. And I don't think so. And it may very well have been used by one prior owner, because remember, this is over 120 years old, that there may have been, but I have no signs of that. Let me just ask, Lori, do you? No. So I don't think it had a residence on it prior to this.
Any further questions of the commission right now? With that, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in the audience to speak against it? You, sir, in the blue.
Come up.
Yep, you can come up, and I'd ask the applicant just to step back for
Sure.
a moment.
My name is Adam Hall. I own the property of 65 Park Avenue, basically right across the street from the property in question. Just starting off, just one question I have is, why we're calling it 78 when the house next door that's two-family is 76 and 78? Like, so that number's already established to a dwelling. So I was a little confused about that.
I can answer that as best I can.
Yeah.
The street designation by the assessor is 78. The house next door
We
is
need to
80.
have, I don't mean to be a
Yeah.
pain, but we have to keep you on microphone or the public can't hear you at our home.
The assessor's designation of this property is 78, and the property next door, although it does have a 78 on it, is 80.
They have a 76 and a 78.
I know,
It's a
but
it's a
76 on
two-family.
one side and 80 on the other.
All right, I mean, even on the map that I looked at online, it showed 76 and 78 were that one dwelling.
I think for purposes of organization, we'll have the applicant remain in the audience, and he can hold his comments till the public has spoken, and I'll let the public finish
Anyway,
their
so
discussion.
that was something I was just going to clear on. And then, well, we did kind of just go over the zoning codes in question. I was wondering how they pertain to the thing, because in the letter, it also calls out 40.30.4, and that's about cemeteries. And I was like, I didn't know why that was relevant. But anyway, So I have a few just concerns that I'm going to read, and then maybe some questions that I'm going to after. But my first main concern living in the area is there's already a very large parking issue on that street already. It's very congested. I have pictures on my phone if anybody really wants to see. There's usually cars line both sides. They both line both sides of the street, making it very hard to see traffic coming down the street. It also makes it so that only one car can go at a time in any direction. If there's two cars traveling in different directions, one of them must pull over to let the other through. And when there's town events held on the town green, parades on Route 5, and events at Mount Carmel, the attendees use Park Avenue and the other surrounding streets for parking. This always creates a difficult and unsafe situation in the neighborhood. And many times they get trapped because everyone's parked on the sides and you can't even pull over to let somebody that may be, coming down. And then now they got to back down the street while others are trying to park. Other people are trying to pull out of their driveways. We got pedestrians walking to the events. Children are playing in the neighborhood. We got lots of children in the neighborhood. It's just really not safe. And I've had many close calls just pulling out of my own driveway. I own a Chevy Suburban, and if cars are parked too close to my driveway and they're across the street in front of my driveway, sometimes I can't even make it out with my Suburban or I'll smash in a car. And I actually have video of that too, if you guys would like to see, of me pulling out with cars right here, and I would have absolutely hit this car. I would not have been able to make a right turn. But I get a lot of difficulty getting my camper in and out as well. Several times I've had to knock on my neighbor's doors just to figure out whose vehicle's parked there and if they can move so that I can get in and out of my own driveway. Another two-family house is going to add more vehicles to this street, probably at least 4 vehicles, more if they have company visiting. And this neighborhood, I just don't see being able to sustain more vehicles parked there. And I know they need a driveway for at least 4 cars for a two-family house. So first off, I'm unclear on where that would fit on the property. And secondly, if they have a gathering like a baby shower or a graduation, where's everybody else going to park? Well, on the street, of course. And like many in the neighborhood, they may have a driveway but still park on the street. For example, the house to the right of the property, which I'm telling you is 76 and 78, has a large driveway. Most occupants park on the street anyway. And there's at least 4 cars belonging to that address on the street usually. And what's to stop the new house from following the suit? There's going to be more cars parked there in the area that impedes my ability to get out of my own driveway. And it's going to cause more congestion for emergency vehicles. So that leads me into my other concern is safety. As I mentioned already, safety is another big concern. And the current state of parking on the street is already unsafe in my opinion. I'm a father of 2 small children. And there are many other children in this neighborhood that run and play as children should. With the cars parked lining both sides of the street, the potential for a child running out from between the cars and onto the street is high. It's also difficult to see, and it's just a matter of time before there's a tragic accident involving a child. Also, what about first responders? With Park Avenue essentially being a 1-lane, 2-way street, fire and rescue are going to have a challenging time in the event of an emergency. I've personally witnessed multiple times an ambulance having to completely block the road because they can't get to the side of the road to the house that the call is at. And this adds to the response time for life-threatening emergencies where minutes mean lives. What if there's a big fire in the neighborhood? How well are they going to be able to get a ladder truck or other emergency vehicles to the scene? There's no real way for them to turn around or to get around each other. And I'm just wondering, has the police chief and fire chief evaluated this situation and signed off on anything? And then my third major concern is the underground water. He mentioned that there's wetlands back there, but I think they extend a lot further than we think because it's my understanding that there's basically a stream that runs to that part of the neighborhood. And I believe through a lot of part of that property. My father-in-law, Michael Reveruzzi, grew up across the street from that property and was later a beloved teacher in the Enfield public school system for many years until he retired. He told me that groundwater has always been a big issue in that area. Water flows from Summer Street and into the surrounding properties. And in fact, right in the area of the property in question is where water tended to gather and freeze, and he and the other neighborhood children would go ice skating there. The house to the right of the property has a crack in the foundation and had multiple repairs due to the groundwater always getting in. Michael Reveruzzi told me this because he grew up there and saw many times where they had to repair the cement because it would just swell up from the water under there. So the other houses near there had to build the property up. The house to the left, for example, because they couldn't make the foundations deep enough because of the water. So they had to bring dirt in and raise up the whole lot. So if they're going to build this, then I'm sure they'll have to do the same. So then we're going to have even more large trucks and construction equipment trying to get down to this congested road. They could damage neighbors' vehicles on the street, block access for emergency vehicles, and it's just a high potential for big problems. Michael Reveruzzi also told me of his neighbors having hand-dug surface wells for water supplies because the groundwater has always been an issue. I mean, the town knows about this because in the past they dug up the property that I own now at 65 Park Avenue to put what I believe are MS4 drains to divert the groundwater. It doesn't even really work that well because my backyard still floods a bit and stays very wet because I myself have issues with that groundwater. So those are my three major concerns. And I just wanted to, you know, I kind of said it in my thing, but has the police chief and fire chief evaluated the impact of addition of the two-family home in the neighborhood, and what do they say? I'd like to know. There's a power line pole that's in front of the property where the driveway would go. I have a picture of that if anybody wants to see. Is that going to be moved? Or what if construction vehicle or any other vehicle hits that entering and exiting the property while construction is underway? Who's going to be responsible for that if we lose power in the neighborhood because of it? I want to know who will be held responsible if the new foundation diverts the groundwater into neighbors' basements or floods nearby properties, adding to the existing issue. And God forbid a kid gets hurt because they can't see the traffic coming down the street because too many cars are parked on the side. If the town is responsible because you let this go after the safety concern is put on record, how much will it cost the town if we have a tragedy like that? So.
Have you brought any of this to the police department or to the town, since you've probably been following that there's been parking issues on congested streets in your area?
I've spoken off record personally with the police that have come to my neighborhood, just talking on the street when they've responded to stuff like that or whatever. But yeah, nothing. This is my first time before a town council or anything like that. So this is, this kind of struck me pretty close to home, and I just really felt strongly about this and wanted to get my words out. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience to speak in favor or against?
Robert Lucas, 86 Park Ave, property to the east. I want to commend him on his speech and his questions. I like to back him up on the water levels. My backyard is a sponge. Water levels are high after winter. Thaw, water goes in my cellar. I have a sump pump, but it runs 24/7. So I'm just curious if there was any questions about putting a building there, if my water level is going to get higher. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
How are you all doing tonight?
Name and address for the record, please.
Sorry, my name is Brandon Tassone. I'm a resident at 63 Park Ave. I actually have two letters here, one from my landlord and one from me as I'm a tenant at the property. I'll start off with the one from my landlord, and I'm just going to read it as if he was speaking. My name is Benjamin Lemieux. I am the owner of 63 Park Avenue in Enfield, Connecticut. It has come to my attention that there is an intention to build a duplex home at 78 Park Ave. Admittedly, I have a limited time and limited experience at Park Ave. However, in the duration of my ownership, I've noticed the street is very crowded and crowded with cars and makes for a good deal of traffic congestion. I'm concerned that building further housing will only exacerbate this issue. I also believe with further traffic congestion comes a greater increase for accidents on the street, as well as a number of safety issues for the residents of the street with limited visibility. I have heard other safety concerns from other residents with far more time on that street, and I ask you to listen to them diligently as you make this important decision. And this one is for myself. It's been brought to my attention that a redistricting of the zoning laws has been initiated in our area on Park Ave in order to build a new residence. The street in which I live is already very congested and has been a safety concern for a long time. It's already very hard to see when people are entering the street from behind the vast number of cars parked on both sides of the street. The lack of parking on the street from the multitude of residences already provides a challenging situation for me and other residents when we would like to park closer to our apartments and dwellings. The addition of another multifamily home would increase the safety risk that is already present and exacerbate the parking issue to another degree. I would please ask you kindly reject this petition to redistrict the zoning laws for the benefit of the existing inhabitants of the street. And my other question also kind of ties into, I work from home. So if during the construction power goes out, or they say nick a fiber line and the internet goes down, what am I supposed to do as far as for work? How will I be compensated, and how will that apply to me? And that's just my questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please submit those written documents to staff to be entered into the record?
And before you leave, could you sit down for a second? I want to ask you a question.
Sure. Would you like me to do that right now?
Yeah. Where do you park?
I park on the street.
There's no parking where your apartment is?
Nope.
It doesn't have a driveway?
Nope.
I used to own.
Sir, you have to wait your turn, and I will recognize you again for a minute, okay? If you're all set, you
Oh,
can
yeah, no.
submit what you
I'm
have to staff. And
Put my name on this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, if you'd like to be recognized again, and then I'm going to let the applicant have a chance for his rebuttal, unless there's other comments. You're all set? You're all set? Okay, anybody else in the audience that wants to speak in favor or against? Yes, sir. So, please tell us your name and address for the record.
Yep. Name is Ian Brown, owner of 71 Park Ave, right across from the property they want to develop on. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. My main concern is parking. It's atrocious on that street. I have a shared driveway with Adam, and I don't have tenants in that property yet, but I soon to have, so I have to figure out some parking situations for myself as well, but making sure that it's off the street, so I have to take some stuff down to build that up. But I have trouble even getting to my house when I park on the street, so I can't even park in front of my house sometimes if need be, because of all the rest of the traffic flowing down and parking, because I'm pretty sure I only have the only property on that street with the side lot still attached. I own it. So everyone sees that as just an open parking spot. So I can't even park in front of my house. So it was kind of difficult when my girlfriend was 9 months pregnant and still having to walk down the street to just get the groceries to the house. But other than that, that is my major concern, is just parking for that area.
You have a parking driveway?
I have a shared driveway with Adam with a garage in the back.
Is there a garage?
Yeah, my garage.
It's like common between them. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
If there's no one else from the audience that wishes to speak, I will let the applicant come up and have his rebuttal.
Again, Richard Case. I heard what the three people spoke. If you note, and I did not want to get into site because that's not the jurisdiction of this board. This is the ZBA. I will point out to the people that are in the room that assuming that these variances are granted, we have to go back to the planning to PZ to get a special permit. And at the time of that special permit, the site plan will be thoroughly discussed, and any issues that they've raised will be considered by that commission. I don't know whether or not there was in your package the site plan that was. I have one. I only have one.
Yes,
but,
we have the site development plan that
Site
was drawn
development
by
plan.
Mr. Christian.
but if you'll notice, in that site development plan, we've provided for 4 parking places within the confines of the property. But I do not want to get into the site because that's not the purview of this board. But we clearly have to do that before the PZ. So that would be my response to the parking question. I also remind that there is, as a single-family house can be built as a matter of right. So whether there will be a construction, but the economics of it say if the two-family, and that does provide some additional housing for people because of the fact of being able to do a two-family. But I will ask it, if there are members of the commission want to ask me questions about what was raised, I'll be glad to answer.
Any other general questions of the commission? No? Everybody okay? I think I should read this now or right before we
Do it now.
Just like to read into the record, the Zoning Board of Appeals must find that a legal hardship exists. A hardship exists where the zoning ordinance uniquely affects a parcel of land differently from other properties and where use of the property or reasonable use of the land would be impossible without the variance. Self-inflicted or financial hardships cannot by law be considered as a reason for granting a variance. Now we'll move along. Any discussion, a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve. Do you want me to read the whole motion?
Sure.
Motion to approve ZBA 2022-1006. Do you need to close the
Oh, yeah, close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
All those in favor? Opposed, abstained? Okay.
Motion to approve 2022-1006, 78 Park Avenue, Maiden Builders LLC, applicant David and Lori Longy, owners. Map 39, Lot 4, R33 zone with the following findings. The parcel is uniquely affected by the application of the density standards contained in sections 4.30.3B and 4.30.3C. Due to the proximity of large, undeveloped, and low-density residential properties in the zone that are not functionally part of this higher-density neighborhood. The neighborhood, and especially Park Ave, is predominantly occupied by two-family homes, and the addition of one two-family home in this location will not undermine the comprehensive plan or violate orderly development principles. And number 3, the addition, this two-family home to this neighborhood will support the community's desire to create more affordable housing options in appropriate locations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have two questions based on this. I'm just looking to just validate my assumptions. And it's also noted here in the staff comments. They talked about the fire department and that they had not received any comments from anybody at this point in time. The only exception is the fire marshal. He requested that the unit's numbers be clarified as part of the development permitting process. But there are no other negative comments that were put out there. I'm also looking at it and I have assumption that all of the issues, a number of the issues that the people are raising here tonight would be better directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission when and if a permit application comes in. Is that a correct assumption? That's where they would address it?
Yes, absolutely. That's
Okay.
outside of the
It's
concerns.
outside our purview
Yes.
at this point. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask you a question, also just for clarification, regarding safety concerns that Tim brought up, in addition to planning and zoning, they would then follow through with appropriate other departments such as fire or police Is that a correct assumption?
I mean, that would be up to planning and zoning to make those
Okay,
referrals
that's- okay.
if that's necessary.
Thank you.
No further discussion? You ready to vote?
Andrew Obanowitz,
Yes.
Mary Ann Turner, yes. Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Masterbirdy,
Yes.
Tim Neville.
Yes.
Okay. Variance is approved. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Okay, do you guys want to give me some additional verbiage, or do you want to just live with what's written on the back?
I think all that's good, and I think maybe the only addition would be that this variance actually would make the lot conform with the area.
Anybody have anything else you want to add?
And I think the hardship is but for these open parcels of undevelopable land.
Yeah. Okay.
Now that I got all this jumble here. Did he hand one of these to staff? If not,
I'll give him one of ours. Did he
Yeah,
give you one of these, Matt?
these two items. Okay, so why don't you take these and add them to the record?
Here, Matt, why don't we give you the whole package while you're standing? Thank you.
Okay.
Matt, does the town want these plot plans back?
No, take them, because we found it's safe sometimes with you guys not having to have the applicant supply additional ones when you go to P and Z.
Well, yeah, they're all date stamped, so we have to, but that's okay, I'll take them,
You get them.
They're high def. They're nice.
no problem. That's it? Thank you.
Okay. Ready to move on with our agenda? Approval of minutes, October 24, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion of them?
Other than it's the quickest meeting on record, 9 minutes long.
Okay, hearing none, do we have a vote?
Let me ask. All those in favor?
Yeah. I'm abstaining, I was not at the meeting.
I as well am abstaining. I was not at the meeting. I heard.
Correspondence and staff reports. Do you have anything for us that we don't already know about? Okay. Any?
Do we need to vote
the
on the
meeting?
dates?
The meeting dates, yeah. Thoughts, everybody? Do we like these, or?
Already in my
changes?
calendar, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Make a
Mary Ann's-
motion to
Mary Ann's
approve.
looking.
Second.
Hang on 1 second. There's
Motion
always
denied.
one that we,
We end up getting that's a little bit off.
okay. Yeah, and I guess it's,
They're beautiful dates.
I think that the staff has already moved those problematic ones. The December one was one of them.
yeah, and I think we had one with Halloween, or the Thanksgiving was a.
Yeah, I
sometimes.
think it does.
After.
Yeah, so this is after kind of the same position
As we
it
got
is this,
now, yeah.
you know, right now. So
Yeah, I didn't think it was any.
I don't see an issue, but
October, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, so we're sticking to the 4th.
kind of stay to the routine.
Except December.
Right. Yeah, I think that's been the main concern with
motion and a
December,
second.
is that it happens, prior to people going on a Christmas break and
Yeah.
missing it.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a motion and a second on it. Do
Okay.
we need to
Oh,
vote?
this is
Have a
discussion.
vote?
If, aye.
All right, we're all in favor of the dates.
Amazing.
Do we have any other business? None? Or are you gonna look, Mary Ann?
I don't think we have.
Okay.
Let me just check my binder if there's something that we had.
Mr. Chairman, just through the town, I think was it last time we had the newsletter, we asked if they could just email those?
That's right, you're right.
The quarterly newsletters?
Oh, yeah, upon receipt, so
Upon
they'd be a
receipt.
little more timely to us?
If you put that on the tickler as they come out? Save a little paper and, thank you.
I think we're still wanting to find out what's going on with the Enfield by Center of Enfield, Matt. We bring it up every meeting.
Those reports, who those reports from?
Your office.
No,
Okay.
he's talking about, Connecticut Federation of Planning.
Connecticut Federation of Planning ones.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going this.
It's all right. Do you have any idea when there's going to be some more training? Are they talking to you? Because I noticed there was an article in the paper this past week. I read my papers kind of late. Did anyone else see
I
it?
did. There's some
Yeah.
changes in the planning and zoning and the ZBA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, just found out about it by reading them in the paper. I don't like being
I
surprised.
don't like surprises either.
No, I hate surprises.
I will ask the planning director.
Yeah, I don't understand why we wouldn't have been notified before it got to the press. Not that what they were talking about, just so you folks know.
Yeah.
It was the case 7 for us. I
Right.
didn't. And what they're saying is they're going to accept it, but they're going to X out their private information.
They had their social security numbers and stuff.
Yeah,
Which they shouldn't have had anyway.
We had that one before, remember, we brought it to their attention then.
right.
Right.
But I kind of found it odd that, made the news as, some big change that we were going to do.
They were also going to change, if I read it correctly, if I read it correctly, they're going to change the packets that we get, and everything's going to be online. That's, unless I misread it.
I hope you misread that because that's not happening.
It's fine with me.
I'm a paper kind of gal,
I agree with you.
unless everyone's going, and I don't think they're going to give us.
I was looking for that next thing, that's why it came
Yeah,
up. I said,
I think the reason that we would not want to switch to electronic packets is the nature of the exhibits that we receive. It's just too difficult for us to have multiple things open. We'd have to bring a device. It's difficult to look at plans that are scanned in, so it's just not going to be appropriate for this commission. We need continued paper packets.
I agree, I would just like to see them get that information to us and explain it to us instead of having to read it in the paper. It was not crystal clear in the paper, in my estimation.
Do you know what we're talking about, Matt?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Sorry about that.
I mean, I think it should be up on the town's website for everybody else to look
well,
at, but it's just very difficult for us as a commission.
What I would do is, I'll convey the information that you're sharing with Lori.
Yeah.
Lori is the one who, as the department head, had made certain decisions. I don't know to the extent she discussed it with you or not. Apparently she didn't. She just did things. So I'll convey the information and your sense back to her, and we can go forward from there. I understand, and I'm sympathetic to your desire to have paper copies. I tend to be the same myself in terms of reviewing things and having things. It is difficult to window up and scale in when you're looking at something on a laptop.
Right, and the town's not going to provide us engineering computers, so we have double monitors. So we can-
Right, right. That's
That's
a
big
fair statement.
expense.
You're
Well,
right.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we also discussed this previously, that if we bring our own devices, then those are open to personal information should a FOIA request be put forward.
Yes, and further, if there were a lawsuit, they're open to discovery.
Correct.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I believe we discussed that until the town provides separate secure devices for us as an option for any commissioners that would want that. We would not be going to digital. We would always have paper.
And I think even that said, if it were to be 80% digital, the 20% that's maps and exhibits still
Would have to come
has
out
to
to us.
come as a print.
Absolutely. It's good for note-taking.
She'll be here tomorrow.
Sweet.
Matt, will you be now our liaison?
I can't say that for sure. What we've had recently is we've had Rick is out with surgery, had surgery on his foot. And that's taken a lot more time than he initially thought it would. We've had some vacations, we've had people out ill, so we're trying to kind of juggle assignments a little bit. I was the one who had managed the special permit file for this last applicant, so it's just kind of natural for me to follow it through with them. So that's what I did for this one. So you're probably going to see, I would think myself, Georgie, and to the extent Rick needs to be involved, Rick as well. So Rick
All
on
right.
the litigation matters in particular, I think Rick would be here for those. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Well, the only thing that's still sitting on my open book here since February is what's happening with Buy Center of Enfield.
Buy Center, okay.
Yeah, they're the one on Hazard, they're the used car dealer. They do not have a K7. We believe they're still working. They're supposed to be in cease and desist.
Yeah, I will get back. I remember before Rick went out, him and I did talk about that briefly. So I'm aware that they still have, I think, some issues that need to be resolved. But I'll talk to Rick. Is supposed to be back next week. So when Rick gets back next week, I mean, he's checking his email, so I could send him a note and ask him what the status of that is. But I think he was initiating some kind of action to get them into compliance. So I'll pass that along as well.
Does anybody remember 556 Hazard Ave? Did anyone know where that is? Because I have a note in here, but my note's not clear what I'm talking about. No?
No.
All right, well, I don't think I have.
I just have a question. I don't know, on a previous case, we're waiting for something to happen on 140 in terms of the barn. Have you any update on that? Because that's 1 month away.
I'm
If you want
sorry,
me- if you
Tim,
want
could
me to
you
wait-
say it again? Update on what?
An update on the barn that's on.
Oh,
No,
yes.
I knew, I couldn't understand.
Yes, how could I forget?
I
they
don't
did-
know that.
I think they did get their permits. I think there was an agreement that included a schedule and the performance of other certain milestones, if you will.
Yeah, they only have till the end of the month.
Way. So, but that's really being tracked more with Ray and building and Rick, but I'll find out for you guys.
Okay, I just,
Sure.
I ride by every day and I just haven't seen anything and it's
Right.
running out of time.
Right.
So, anyway, just, it's curiosity more than anything else. Thank you very much.
It's curious to us, too. 37 years of curiosity. It's been a long time. So,
I'll make
yep.
a note this time.
Okay.
All right,
So that's it for other business, everyone?
I'll keep my.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.